The command deck of the Resolute was silent except for the steady hum of systems running at full alert. Every officer stood frozen as the alien figure materialized on the holodisplay. General Kothar's towering form filled the projection, scaled skin like blackened iron, tusks curving outward, and ceremonial armor inscribed with glyphs of conquest. His voice boomed through the chamber like thunder rolling across a battlefield. "Humans will kneel," he declared. "Before dawn cycle ends, your fleet will bow, and your species will accept its place beneath the Dravari Empire." The words pressed down on the crew like a physical weight. Some lowered their eyes instinctively, others clenched fists to hide their fear. Only one figure moved, Commander Elara Vey. She rose from her chair with measured calm, hands clasped behind her back, her dark uniform crisp despite the long campaign. Her gaze never wavered. Her lips curved into the faintest trace of a smile. "If kneeling is what you seek, General," she said evenly, "then kneel first." A sharp intake of breath rippled across the deck. Kothar's slit-pupiled eyes narrowed. The corners of his mouth curled into something between amusement and rage. "Arrogance," he hissed. "You are young, fragile creatures. You mistake defiance for strength." Elara tilted her head. "No. We mistake nothing. We understand exactly what's at stake." For a long moment, the projection seemed to darken as Kothar loomed forward. His words came like a ritual chant, heavy with tradition. "The Empire has ruled for 1,000 cycles. Every race we have conquered has bowed. To refuse is to be broken. To kneel is to live." "To kneel," Elara replied, her voice cutting through the air like a blade, "is not living." The general's snarl reverberated. "You will have one day. 24 standard hours. At the end, your ships will kneel before me, or your colonies will burn, and your children will know fire instead of breath." The projection vanished in a cascade of static. Silence lingered for a heartbeat before the crew erupted in hushed voices. Lieutenant Marcus Hale, her second in command, stepped closer. His jaw was tight, his voice pitched low. "Commander, we can't match his fleet head-on. 30 warships. Carrier support. We're holding with 12 battered cruisers and civilian transports that can barely defend themselves." Elara studied the stars visible through the viewport. Kothar's ships were already shifting into a blockade, cutting off escape routes. The news tightened with every passing minute. "I know the odds," she said. "That doesn't change the choice." "You mean refusing?" Marcus pressed. His eyes searched hers, desperate. "Elara, if we don't bend just enough to buy time." Her voice sharpened. "If one human kneels, Marcus, all of humanity kneels. We give him that image, and it will be broadcast across every system. We'll be branded the species that surrendered before we even began." He exhaled, shoulders sinking. "Then what do we do?" She turned to face the crew. "We hold." A young communications officer, barely 20, spoke up. "Commander, the colonists on Zerath 9 are terrified. Families, children, they're asking if they should evacuate." Elara shook her head. "Evacuation isn't possible. Kothar's blockade would slaughter them in transit. Their best chance is here, under our shield grid. And under us." Her words hung heavy in the air. Officers straightened, some drawing steadiness from her certainty. Elara stepped forward to the center of the deck, voice carrying with practiced clarity. "Listen carefully. We are not the first species he has tried to crush, but we will be the first to deny him the ritual he craves. He needs us to kneel, because conquest without submission means nothing to the Dravari. His power is built on humiliation. We will not give it to him." The room was quiet, but this time the silence was different, less fear, more resolve. Marcus studied her for a moment longer before nodding. "Then we prepare for the storm." Elara gave a thin smile. "Good. Let him come." Hours passed in relentless preparation. Engineering teams reinforced shield arrays, weapons crews ran drills until their hands blistered, and tactical officers recalculated formations against overwhelming firepower. Every corridor of the Resolute hummed with frantic activity. The looming shadow of Kalar's fleet pressed against every thought, but Alara's words had carved something unshakable into them. In the strategy room, holograms of both fleets shimmered above the table. Marcus pointed to the enemy formation. They're tightening the blockade. If they push closer to the planet, they'll be in optimal bombardment range within 12 hours. Alara studied the glowing symbols. The Dravari ships gleamed like predatory beasts circling prey. She traced a line along their flanks, noting gaps between escorts and heavy cruisers. Patterns. Arrogance. They expected her to fight like every other desperate commander before her, charging headlong until broken. Good, she murmured. Let him believe that. Marcus frowned. You're planning something. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked at him with a spark of iron in her eyes. Kalar believes power is shown when others bend. But humans? We've survived by refusing to break. Every mountain we've climbed, every war we've fought, we endured because we stood when standing seemed impossible. That's the difference he doesn't understand. And if standing gets us killed? Marcus asked quietly. Then we fall on our feet, Alara said. By the next evening's cycle, the alien fleet loomed closer. Their carrier groups spread wide, engines glowing like crimson eyes. Kalar broadcast no further messages. His silence was its own kind of pressure. On the bridge, tension coiled like a drawn bowstring. Officers monitored stations, breaths shallow, movements precise. The stars outside glittered against the growing shadow of the Dravari armada. Blockade complete, the navigation officer reported. No exit vectors remain open. Alara stood at the viewport, hands clasped behind her back. Her face was calm, but her pulse thrummed with the weight of every soul on Zerath 9. She whispered, just loud enough for Marcus to hear. Let the galaxy watch. Tonight they'll learn humans don't bow. As the alien fleet moved into final position, the first tremor of incoming scans lit the tactical screens. The war was about to begin. Alara straightened, her voice ringing clear across the deck. All stations. Prepare for contact. Remember who we are. The stars flared with the first distant ignition of Dravari engines as they advanced in full force. The ultimatum had ended. The storm had begun. The first strike came without warning. A bright flare ripped across the void, and a colony outpost orbiting Zerath 9 erupted into fire. Metal fractured, fragments scattering into silence. 1,000 civilian lives were gone in a heartbeat. The Dravari fleet broadcast the destruction across every channel, the message clear: this is the price of defiance. On the Resolute, the crew watched in silence. Some clenched fists, some looked away, others trembled with rage. Commander Alara stood at the center of the deck, her jaw tight but her voice steady. He wants fear, she said. He wants us broken before the battle even begins. Marcus Hale's voice was low, edged with anger. He's succeeding. Colonists are panicking. Requests for surrender are flooding in. Alara's eyes narrowed. Then we give them something else to believe in. She turned to the tactical officer. Status of the enemy picket line? Cruisers spread thin, patrolling supply lanes, the officer reported. They don't expect resistance outside blockade perimeter. A plan sparked in Alara's mind, sharp and fast. Good. We'll remind them that humans bite back. 2 hours later, the strike group launched. 4 corvettes and a wing of fighters detached from the Resolute, engines burning blue as they slipped through the shadow of a drifting asteroid field. Every pilot understood the risk. Against Dravari warships, their craft were fragile shells. Yet the thought of the outpost's destruction burned hot in their veins. Marcus's voice crackled through calms. Targets: enemy supply freighters, escorted by 1 cruiser. Priority is to cripple logistics. Strike fast, withdraw faster. Copy, replied the lead pilot, his voice grim but determined. From the Resolute's bridge, Alara watched the holographic feed. Tiny dots represented her strike team, threading their way into enemy territory. Beyond them, a Dravari convoy gleamed under distant starlight, massive freighters crawling across the void, guarded by a single heavy cruiser bristling with weapons. Conva in range, the tactical officer whispered. Alara gave the order. Hit them hard. The ambush unfolded in a storm of light. Human fighters erupted from cover, missiles streaking like silver darts. The first volley tore into the freighter's engines, igniting fuel cells in a chain of fire. The vessel buckled, drifting powerless. The Dravari cruiser reacted with predictable arrogance, guns blazing, but fire scattered wide as it tried to swat agile attackers. Human corvettes surged in close, peppering its flanks with torpedoes. Explosions rattled across its hull, shields buckling under the onslaught. Marcus's voice rang sharp. All wings, concentrate fire on that cruiser's starboard! The sky lit with fury. For the first time, a Dravari warship reeled from human firepower. On the bridge of the Resolute, cheers broke out. Officers leaned forward, hope sparking in their eyes. Alara allowed herself the faintest nod. Let the galaxy see this. The Dravari bleed. The enemy cruiser, crippled and venting plasma, turned sluggishly away. Human fighters peeled back, reforming with disciplined precision. Mission complete. They had struck and lived. But Kadar had seen. Hours later, his response came. The general's image filled the bridge again, his tusked mouth twisted into a snarl. Behind him, the guttural chants of Dravari warriors echoed like a war drum. You dare? He roared. You insects dare wound a vessel of the Empire? His clawed hand slammed down on an armrest, shattering metal. You will not merely kneel. You will crawl. I will drag you in chains across the ashes of your colonies. Alara stood unmoved. Funny. For a god of war, you seem awfully fragile about losing a single ship. Gasps rose from her crew at the audacity, but she didn't flinch. Kadar's eyes blazed with fury. You think this is victory? I will take you alive. You, Commander. I will make the galaxy watch as you bow before me. The transmission cut, leaving silence like a wound. Marcus turned slowly. He's making it personal. Alara's voice was ice. Good. Let his pride blind him. Preparations intensified. Engineers pushed ships to their limits, patching armor with scavenged plating. Weapons officers worked until hands bled, calibrating every missile and railgun. The fleet trained, drilled, and waited. On the mess deck, soldiers whispered of the strike's success. For the first time since Kadar arrived, hope threaded their voices. They spoke of their commander's defiance, of the cruiser that fell. Small, fragile victories, but enough to keep fear from swallowing them whole. In the strategy chamber, Alara traced holographic lines across enemy formations. Marcus watched her in silence before speaking. You're planning another strike. Her eyes never left the projection. Not yet. The next one has to be decisive. And if it isn't? He asked. Then humanity burns, she answered without hesitation. Marcus exhaled slowly. You carry that weight too easily. Alara's gaze flicked to him. Not easily, Marcus. But someone has to carry it. By the end of the cycle, the Dravari fleet repositioned. Intelligence revealed Kadar himself had taken command aboard the Iron Fang, a flagship bristling with weapons, leading the assault force gathering on Zerath 9's orbit. His strategy was no longer patience, it was annihilation. The colonists knew. Messages streamed to the Resolute, pleas, prayers, defiance. Some begged for surrender. Others swore they would never kneel. Alara read them all, every word etched into her mind like fuel for fire. In the stillness of her quarters, she stared out at the stars, voice low, almost to herself. He doesn't want victory. He wants submission. He wants a story told for centuries, that humans bowed. She clenched her fists. He'll never get it. The next morning cycle, Kadar sent one last transmission. His projection towered above them, armored in ceremonial war plate. Tomorrow, he thundered, your fleet dies. Your people burn. And you, Alara Vey, will kneel before me. The galaxy will remember you as the commander who shattered her species with arrogance. Alara stepped forward, every word sharp, unyielding. Remember this instead, General. Humanity kneels to no tyrant. And when your fleet lies in ruin, they'll remember the day the Dravari learned the cost of arrogance. The projection flickered out. On the Resolute's bridge, silence lingered. Every officer turned toward her, their fear tempered into resolve. Marcus broke it with a single line. Then it comes tomorrow. Elara's eyes burned like steel. Then tomorrow, he kneels first. The stars flared with hostile fire as dawn cycle broke over Zerath 9. Kathar's armada advanced in full strength, their engines glowing crimson, casting streaks of light across the void. At the center of the formation loomed the Iron Fang, a beast of a flagship, armored in dark plates etched with ancient conquest sigils. On the Resolute's bridge, tension throbbed like a second heartbeat. Officers moved with precision, faces pale but resolute. The planet below spun slowly, its shield grid active but fragile. If the enemy broke through, the colony would be ash within minutes. Commander Elara Vey stood at the viewport, hands clasped behind her back, eyes steady on the approaching storm. "All stations," she said calmly. "Prepare for engagement." Marcus Hale leaned closer. "Fleet status: 12 cruisers, 8 corvettes, 3 fighter wings. Against 30 warships and a carrier. Then we'll just have to make 30 feel like one," Elara replied. The comms officer looked up, voice tight. "Incoming broadcast." "It's him." Kathar's massive form appeared, filling the deck with his presence. His voice thundered. "This is your last chance, human. Bow before me now, and your people may live as slaves instead of corpses." Elara stepped forward, unflinching. "I told you, General. We don't kneel. Not now. Not ever." Kathar's tusked mouth twisted into a cruel smile. "Then your death will be my victory." The projection vanished. Silence cracked into motion, alarms blared, and the battle began. The void erupted with light. Dravari cruisers unleashed waves of plasma fire, cascading across human shields. The Resolute shuddered under the first impact, alarms shrieking as sparks flew from consoles. "Shields at 60%! The tactical officer shouted. "Return fire," Elara ordered. "Target their lead escorts. Break the formation." Human torpedoes streaked through the darkness, slamming into enemy frigates. 2 burst apart in blossoms of fire, debris scattering into the void. Cheers rose briefly, drowned by another impact that rattled the bridge. Marcus steadied himself on the railing. "We can't trade blow for blow." "We're not going to," Elara said. "Execute pattern veil." At her signal, half the human fleet peeled away, feigning retreat. Dravari's ships surged after them, hungry for the kill. But as they closed, hidden mines seated in the debris field detonated. Explosions tore through their flanks, shredding shields and igniting engines. The Resolute dove through the chaos, guns blazing. Another Dravari cruiser reeled, hull split open. On the flagship, Kathar watched the setback with narrowed eyes. "Clever," he growled. "But tricks will not save them. Focus fire on her ship. I want her alive." The Resolute became the center of the storm. Plasma bolts slammed into its armor, tearing through decks, hurling crew to the ground. Emergency klaxons screamed. Fires broke out along corridors as engineers scrambled to contain damage. "Shields failing!" the tactical officer cried. "We can't take much more!" Marcus turned, desperation flickering in his eyes. "Elara, if we don't pull back." Her gaze locked on the Iron Fang, looming like a predator. "No. This ends with him." She opened a calm channel, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Kathar! You wanted me? Here I am." The general's face filled the screen, eyes blazing. "Still standing? Impressive. But you will kneel soon enough." Elara's reply was cold steel. "Funny. I was about to say the same to you." Her plan unfolded. The Resolute veered sharply into the debris field orbiting Zerath 9, luring Kathar's flagship into pursuit. The human fleet regrouped, drawing enemy ships into overlapping kill zones. Explosions thundered across the void. Dravari escorts fell one by one, outmaneuvered by desperate, cunning strikes. Yet losses mounted on both sides. 2 human cruisers split apart, their crews lost in silence. On the bridge, sweat-streaked faces, hands shook, but no one faltered. "Commander, Resolute's hull integrity is failing," Marcus warned. "Hold course," Ilara said. "He'll follow. He has to." And Cathar did. The iron Fong plunged into the debris field, massive cannons hammering at the Resolute. His voice thundered across calms once more. "Your defiance is meaningless. You bleed, you burn, and still you refuse to kneel. Why?" Ilara, battered but unbroken, stared into the projection. "Because freedom isn't given. It's taken. And we'll tear it from your hands before we bow to them." Cathar roared, but at that moment, Ilara's trap sprung. Hidden charges, planted in the asteroid belt days earlier, ignited in unison. The debris field became a storm of shrapnel and fire. The iron Fong reeled as explosions tore across its hull, engines sputtering. Its massive frame lurched downward, caught in Zerath 9's gravity well. The great warship tilted, nose dipping, forced into a slow, inevitable bow. Across every channel, images broadcast, the Dravari flagship kneeling before the human colony. Ilara opened comms one final time. Cathar's face appeared, twisted in rage, smoke curling around him. "Kneel!" he snarled, blood streaking his jaw. Ilara met his gaze, her voice sharp, steady, final. "Kneel first." Behind her, the Resolute's guns unleashed their full volley. Torpedoes slammed into the iron Fong, tearing through its weakened hull. Fire consumed the flagship, and Cathar's image dissolved into static. Silence fell on the battlefield. The remaining Dravari ships faltered, leaderless, retreating into the darkness. Humanity's fleet, scarred and broken, held its ground. On the bridge, battered crew erupted in cheers, some collapsing into their chairs, others weeping openly. Marcus leaned heavily against the console, his voice hoarse. "You did it!" Ilara shook her head. "We did it!" She looked out at the crippled wreck of the iron Fong, its hulking frame drifting in slow orbit, bow still tilted toward the planet. A fitting monument to the day. Hours later, as fires were extinguished and wounded treated, Ilara recorded a transmission for the colony and beyond. Her voice was steady, calm, carrying weight beyond the moment. "Today, the Dravari demanded that humanity kneel. We did not. They sent their greatest general to break us, and he bowed instead. Let every world remember this: humanity does not kneel." The message spread, carried across systems, whispered in backrooms and shouted in marketplaces. A new legend took root. In the quiet after battle, Marcus approached her quarters. He found her standing at the viewport, eyes on the drifting wrecks. "You should rest," he said softly. She shook her head. "Rest comes later. We've just written the first line of something larger." Marcus smiled faintly. "And what will the galaxy call it?" Her gaze never left the stars. "The day humanity stood."